So, with the next major update just around the corner, that's going to be introducing the new South African tech lineup for the British, I've been getting many questions from various parts of the community, and that is what is the best vehicle to get for the proper grind? Now, naturally, I'm going to be talking about two vehicles in particular, and they are high tier vehicles, that being the Sho't and the Rooikat 105. Now, the reason why I am talking about these two vehicles in particular is because they both offer not only a unique play style, but they also offer the most amount of research points used to grind out the entirety of the British lineups. I'm talking from tier 1 all the way to tier 7 to the to the fullest extent. So in this video, I'm going to try to help you determine which of these vehicles is appropriate for you guys, seeing that I prefer you guys not just make the purchase randomly and kind of let it fall short of your own expectations. So with that being said, and my chihuahua's kind of happy too, let's get started. So one of the first vehicles I'd like to cover is the Sho't Kal Dalet. Now, believe it or not, this was one of the first high-tier premium vehicles for the British lineup, and it was introduced a little over 2 years ago, but thankfully not much of it has really changed in terms of performance and how it handles itself in the actual game, but instead has gotten slightly better thanks to volumetric, but we'll get more into that in just a little bit. Now, some of the key strengths of this vehicle is the fact that it does have considerably more armor, mostly with the ERA, which is great against Heat FS, especially when you get into those 7-7 down tiers, where Heat FS is pretty much the commonplace in that battle rating. And next up is the roof-mounted machine guns. It has a lot of them, and the cool thing about the 50 cal that is in front of the vehicle is it is co-aligned with the gunner itself. So even if you do lose a couple of crew members, your commander most notably, you won't lose access to that machine gun, even with just the bare minimum being 2 crew. Next up is considerably more ammunition capacity, meaning you can carry up to 72 rounds, whereas the Rooikat can only carry 32, which is not really a good thing. You don't want to really carry too much ammo as is. However, if you are in, say, a Sho't arcade or in a defensive position or a sniping position, it's definitely going to suit you a lot better. However, you definitely don't want to get penetrated with a full amount of ammunition because your tank will blow up, seeing that the entirety of the interior of the crew space is pretty packed with ammunition. It seems to be a weird British thing. Next up is the M111 APFSDS, which is basically DM23 in 105 variant. It's very capable and can handle its own, even in a full up tier, being battle rating 9.3, T72As, T64As, etc. Next up, it does have an excellent 8.3 lineup. I mean, seriously, take a look at this. This is a very solid lineup for 8.3, and it can handle its own, again, even in a full up tier. Although I'm not a huge fan of the Chieftain Mark III at all, or the Mark V. So next up, it has a lot of smoke grenades. I mean, it has a lot, which is going to suit you incredibly well if you have to, I guess, shoot and scoot for whatever reason. And that's where we come down to the weaknesses of the Sho't Kal. Its armor is pretty poor against APFSD, as APHE from the front is kind of a 50-50, but the moment any sort of high explosive shell penetrates your armor from the side or the front, you have a lot of ammunition. It's going to blow up your tank right away. That's kind of a given right there. Next up is, yes, it does have an upgraded engine, but it's a very slow tank. It's a Centurion with more armor, or ERA, and is still just a Centurion. It's very slow. It will not be able to traverse incredibly well, so keep that in mind when you are playing with it. Another thing is the optics. Now, they're relatively poor, 4.9 to 6 times, which may not seem like a lot, but when you have a laser rangefinder and you have so much ammunition type or amount of ammunition, it's going to be a bit of an issue, seeing that you won't be able to snipe very efficiently with it. Now, the next thing is no thermal sights, only night vision, which is kind of a bummer, but at battle rating 8.3, it's kind of a good thing to, I guess, not really have it, because there's very few vehicles at that battle rating that do have thermal sights up until you reach about 9.0. And no, we're not talking about the Bradley or the Warrior or any other vehicles like that. So and one last thing, terrible reverse speed. That's right, it's a British tank. They're usually okay with reverse speed, but not in the Sho't Cow, unfortunately. 11 kilometers an hour, that is incredibly rough. So keep that in mind when you do make, or if you make this purchase of the Sho't Cow. So up next is the Rooikat 105. Now, this vehicle is one of the more recent additions to the British high-tier premium lineups and does have some advantages over the Sho't Cow, most notably in the area of mobility. This is a very highly mobile vehicle over the Sho't Cow. It has a greater top speed. It's way faster, even in some of the more, tougher terrains, minus going up a hill, which we'll talk about more in just a quick second in the disadvantages of this vehicle. Now, another strength of the vehicle itself is the fact that it does have similar firepower to that of the Sho't Cow. It does have DM23, which M111 and DM23 are basically the same shell types. When you pair that with a very mobile platform, it does incredibly well, but again, it really depends on your personal playstyle. And up next is the thermal sight, but for the gunner only. It does not have a CITV, but it does have a Gen 1 thermal sight paired with a decent long-range optics of 8 times to 12 times, meaning that this vehicle is great for sniping, especially paired with that mobility, meaning you get into an early game spot and you get to essentially snipe your targets from the side. And in a full up tier at battle rating 9.7, as this is an 8.7 vehicle, it doesn't quite do well frontally against T-72s, especially the terms, but it will do incredibly well, especially from the sides at a distance. Now, next up is the turret rotation speed. Now, the Sho't Cow really isn't known for that, whereas in the Sho't Cow, you have to kind of pivot your vehicle to get a good shot on somebody at certain angles, whereas the Rooikat, not so much, because it has, I think, about 10 or 12 more degrees of turret rotation speed over the Sho't Cow, and the crew is not nearly as compact as the Sho't Cow. So again, no armor, best armor, over penetration will happen. While it doesn't really affect the crew too much, it will kind of save them just a little bit. Now, some of the weaknesses of this vehicle, again, it has no armor. Hull break is a really big issue. So if anything with a heat round or an HE round hits you in the hull, you're gonna hull break no matter what, as you just saw right here. Next up, it has less ammunition, considerably less actually, at 32 rounds as opposed to 72. Now, you don't want to carry too much ammunition in this thing anyway, but assuming you are going to be sniping or flanking someone, it makes sense to carry more ammunition. But again, it really it's determined by your environment. And next up is, again, the thermal sight, only for the gunner view. I already mentioned this, no CITV, but it does play incredibly well anyways, as you're able to utilize CITV at a distance to identify targets. But seeing that it's Gen 1, it's not something you want to rely on too much for accurate shots. And the last thing that makes this vehicle, in my opinion, pretty terrible in some areas, terrible traverse in snow and desert maps. So if you play like, I think, what's the pass? Okay, you guys know what I'm talking about. Maine, etc., where it has a lot of snow or desert, it's not really going to work out incredibly well. So keep that in mind. Your traverse will be cut down in half, which is still faster than the Sho't Cow, but you're gonna have a hard time driving the vehicle anyways in those environments. But in a more stable environment with paved roads, like say cargo port, yeah, that thing gets really fast, really quick. So, pairing the two vehicles side by side, each of them offer their own unique type of playstyle. The Rooikat is far more suited for a more aggressive gameplay, flanking and spanking, and being very accurate with your shots, while at the same time trying to move very quickly to not get shot, whereas the Sho't Cow can and will take some decent hits, seeing that breach is fairly small. I haven't really been breached too much, especially when it comes down to the at tier or lower tier gameplay, and that ERA has saved my butt quite a few times actually, whereas on the Rooikat, the moment a heat round or an HE round hits your hull, that's it. You're going right back to the hangar if you don't have a lineup. And another thing too is the Sho't Cow does have a very good 8.3 lineup, as you did see earlier, whereas the Rooikat is the only vehicle at battle rating 8.7, meaning that you can't really take that 8.3 lineup into 9.7 because yeah, the terms and the L44s and whatever else at 9.7 will tear those vehicles a brand new one. Take my word for when I say that. But ultimately, it comes down to your personal playstyle. Do you like to be patient with the Sho't Kal and have lots of ammunition? Or do you like to be very fast with the Rooikat and be able to get to that early game position to be able to flank and spank your opponents? However, this is where we come to the conclusion. Now, in my honest opinion, the Rooikat is probably the more favored purchase of the two vehicles because speed is the meta at this battle rating that you will find in the higher tiers, especially at 9.7 to 10.7, hopefully at some point 11.0. And so keep that in mind when trying to choose which vehicle you like. But in all actuality, it comes down to what you genuinely enjoy in War Thunder, especially when it comes to the British lineups, which is not exactly the most well known to be the most enjoyable. To some it is, but I guess that's more my opinion than anything else. But let's be very honest here. The real winner of this video was none other than the AVRE. But ladies and gentlemen, we'll save that video for another day. I hope you guys did enjoy everything. Good luck with your purchase, and I hope to see you guys not only in the videos or even the streams, but in War Thunder itself, especially in the next update. And no, I don't know when it's dropping. Stop asking me. Until next time.